Welcome to Executive Matchmakers, an exclusive dating service. Led by Genevieve Grisset, Master Certified Matchmaker, dating coach, author, and radio and TV personality. We are the experts in helping exceptional singles find that missing piece. Love. Are you ready to find the one?
Hi, Ivyia. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Wonderful, literally.
It's wonderful that we've got this opportunity to actually get together and have a deep dive into some of the wonderful world of energy and how much energy really does affect everything that we do, everything that we say. I mean, we are energy. We are completely energy. So, it's just how it is. We're just a bundle of energy. And so it's really important for us to understand what that actually means.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and hopefully not so much of the ugly.
yes, not so much of that. We shift the energy when that happens. So that's good.
Absolutely. So Ivyia, tell us a little bit about what you do. What's your actual job and what does it compose of?
So I am a psychotherapist in Tampa, Florida. So that's just a big frilly name for saying I talk to people about their feelings and emotions and help them work through them, right? So I work with NFL players, corporate CEOs. I speak to people. I do all kinds of little niche things. I've kind of made my own little small niche. And I also work a lot with people with PTSD and trauma. And I started that when I used to work a lot with children in the field with that. So I always say, like, you can give me a hat and I'll put it on, because I'll pick whatever you'd like. I'm just here to help.
And of course, when we look at PTSD and trauma, that you can't talk about relationships without talking about PTSD and trauma, because a lot of clients, a lot of people, this is how we got talking, through a whole trauma piece, and to some extent, potentially PTSD when it comes to past relationships.
Yes.
And this is how we connected, is to offer clients extra if they need extra, and to dig deep with your wonderful words of wisdom. I
appreciate that. Right?
So can you talk a little bit about within relationships, how that trauma and that energy gets transferred, and until you actually do the work, as we both know, until you actually do the work,
yes,
it kind of stays with you, and that whole energetic piece doesn't go away, does it? Unfortunately.
No. It can, but what tends to happen is whatever's happened to us in our last relationship, even if we decide we're not going to let the same thing happen or feel the same way, our body has triggers that then trigger us and make us feel like it's happening. And then we start to bring that same energy back into it, almost subconsciously, like we don't even know.
Okay. So how do we recognize that we're doing that in the first place? It's so hot there and so cold.
It's like 90 degrees
in cold in London. I won't show you the blankets I've got wrapped around me, and you're like, in Florida.
The heat just hit me. So all of a sudden I was like, and that's actually a perfect sign of energy, right? So both of us can be in the same experience, right? So both of us are on this video and we're experiencing two different things, just like you talked about with people with trauma and people in relationships. We're both entering into it at the same time and having two different feelings, two different emotions, and technically two different heats. And that's like an energy thing, right? Literally energy from the sun is radiating into me.
What a wonderful way of explaining it. I've got snow falling outside and you've got brilliant hot sunshine, and we're having the same exchange. It's so true, isn't it? It's really...
It is.
Yeah, that does explain. A bit of meteorology thrown in as well.
Know, right?
We do it all.
That's everything in there. But yes, people carry their trauma and their energy in relationships, even when they don't want to, right? So one of the things that I do is I work with my clients for recognizing, where are you bringing that back into a situation that you shouldn't, or where are you seeing similar energy that you've experienced before that you should pay attention to, and then modify what's going on for you.
And when you say modify, I know obviously being a coach as well, it's one of the things that I sort of put a mirror up so clients see what they're presenting to other people. Now, not everyone is comfortable with that. A lot of people aren't comfortable with seeing how they are in the world. And from your point of view, I know how I do it as a coach, but it'd be really interesting to share with everybody who's watching this is, from your point of view, how do you do that whole accountability piece and that energy piece so that people realize that they need to take some responsibility for their part in their journey and in their relationship with themselves more so?
It's so funny that you said the mirror. In my office, I have a giant mirror and I do something called mirror work. And it's amazing how many women or men don't want to look in the mirror, right? Like they can look in the mirror to brush their teeth and carry on. Like, but when I say, I really want you to look in this mirror, they like shut down. They don't want to see it because it makes them have to look at their inner parts. Because I'm telling them to look inside, right? If I'm looking at the mirror to brush my teeth, I'm looking on the surface.
Yes.
I'm telling them, when I'm telling them to like look at that, they know I'm asking them to look deeper. Right? So I have them do that. The other thing I have them do is I reflect back to them what I say, right?
Yeah.
So, so they may come and they say, well, you're telling me that you're calm and you're not upset about this, but your teeth are clenched, your hands are tight. Are you paying attention to what your body is saying? You're telling me you want love, but everything that you've told me so far is you stay at home, you don't go out, you don't believe it's out there, you believe everybody lies, cheats, and steals. So what you're telling me is the opposite of what you're looking for. So how do you expect to get that?
I have very similar conversations every day. And, people invest in matchmaking and coaching and psychotherapy work, but they're not always energetically ready for what that experience is all about. So how do you get someone ready for this experience?
Because I don't ever get them ready. Sometimes I will say, are you sure you're ready for this? Right. And then what I often ask them is, what you think you came here to see me for may not be what you actually came to see me for.
Absolutely. And I always explain it's like an onion. Once you just peel back the skin of the onion, you've then got all these other layers.
Yes.
And it could take weeks, it could take months, it could take days to get down to the core, the really juicy bit, to actually make you cry, but to actually get down to that whole core, that center of the onion. It takes a lot of work to do that, and I think some people are not always prepared for the work that they're expecting to do when they come to see us. They think we're just going to sit down in front of a coach or in front of a therapist, and they're just going to tell me everything I need to do.
And then it'll be fine. And then
wave a magic wand, bang.
Yeah, I say these 5 things, and then I'm going to have the date of my life, the person of my life, the experience of my life, as opposed to saying that's something that I've been doing, right? Because our environment is a reflection of us, even though we don't want to believe it. Right. It's a reflection of the energy that we give out. So I give people an example, especially people who are not sure they want to do the work yet, is, can you imagine, like, you get up in the morning, you spill coffee on yourself, right? So then you can do 2 things. You can say, okay, and change the cert, or you can say, and be really upset. Then as you go about your day, you tend to encounter people, places, and things that reinforce whatever you decided in that moment. Right. And so that's what I tend to say. And so I say, if you're ready to do the work, you'll reinforce the good. If you're not, you're going to reinforce the same experience that you had before. It's really your choice.
It's rinse and repeat. It is like Groundhog Day, isn't it? It's very much that whole Groundhog Day. I mean, how do you manage your bad days when you have a bad day?
Sight, sound, smell, taste, right? So I love to just sometimes sit with the absence of sound, right? So a lot of times we put on a great song, we get in a mood, but that has energy, right? So you say, we call it upbeat music. Why do we call it upbeat? It lifts us up. We actually even have something called binaural beats that we can listen to, right? And those certain megahertz and hertz change us, right? Yeah. So I will listen to something that will modify it, or I will sit in the absence of sound if I'm overstimulated. If all kinds of things, I said, well, you know what? Let me shift my atmosphere. Let's be quiet. I am not a big go-to for food, because that can have other challenges when you start to do that. But what I may do in the factory,
I'm saying nothing on that one.
Right, is I may say, let me have a nice cup of tea and sit. Right. Let me reset. Let me pull back from whatever the chaos is. Right. Sight is, let me be the observer. Right. What's happening in this environment? Am I contributing to it? What energy am I reflecting back, right? So if I go someplace and it's chaotic, right, do I jump in and become part of the chaos, or do I pull back and observe the chaos? Right. So that's my site. Right. Yeah. And then I love my grounding. Right. So I'll go outside and take a walk. I'll take my shoes off and put them on the disgusting, gross ground outside. Right. If I was where you're at, I would go outside in the snow and I would probably just sit and touch the snow, something that brings me back to the present. Right. Because I don't want to live in the past and the trauma of that energy and the trauma of those past relationships. I want to be in the present. I want to be experiencing this moment.
Do you think that's why people, I know sometimes when I get stressed or I've had to deal with a particularly stressful situation, I'll come in, I'll put the kettle on, I'll make a nice herbal cup of tea, I'll light a candle.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
I like smells, and I think smells can be very healing, cathartic. And when I see clients face to face, I will always light a candle, so they're coming into a nice smell. I'll have blankets. I'll have nice tea. I'll make it an immersive experience.
Yes.
And even when I talk to clients on Zoom, we're talking to clients a lot on Zoom. I say to them, if we're going to have a session, grab a blanket, have a nice warm drink. I don't want you to have even if it's in the evening, don't have a glass of wine, don't have alcohol. Have something warming, have something grounding, have your feet firmly on the ground. If you can be barefoot during a session, I think it's wonderful.
Well, that's actually what I am right now, right? Because I like to feel the ground. It's like one of those things. It's like, because I want to feel the ground.
Absolutely. My feet are always firmly on the ground. Sometimes I had to choose the right desk in my home so that I wouldn't be like down here all the time, because I like my feet on the ground. So I think all of those things are really important, and they're all mindful exercises. It's all part of mindfulness. I mean, you and I have both studied mindfulness. Yes. So to us now, it's second nature, but I really would encourage anyone watching this, everyone can benefit from mindfulness, even if it's from eating, even waking up, even the way you go to bed, everything that you do. If you do it with a mindful attitude and combine that with gratitude, life changes very, very quickly.
Good point that you put, even for your people, mindfully dating, right? Mindfully interacting with people, right? So some people don't think, they're like, well, I'll just go on a date, right? And this is why even I was actually talking to someone yesterday about why matchmakers are actually good, right? Because we fall into our pattern of what we think is correct, what we like, what we choose, where we're not mindfully dating. We're not looking for something that's complementing us. That's our true self. We're looking for the Instagram, the idealized relationship, what we believe to be right? It's kind of like going to the doctor and saying, I think I have this disease and I'd like you to give me these medicines.
Absolutely. Let the doctor diagnose the problem first. Let them you need the medication before you start taking everything. Yes. So with your clients, what does a typical session look like when you're working with a client?
It can vary in so many degrees, right? So we usually come in, and just like you said, you're walking into my office. I have mindful treats. So it's funny. So I will have like sweet and savory little things depending upon the client. I have blankets. My room is set up in like a more upscale beachy look kind of thing. I encourage them to sit on the couch. You can take off your shoes. I have a candle that's there. I have the sound of the ocean in the background. All of this is done to center us back to something. And before I actually do that, I'll do like an assessment and say, what smells do you like? What don't you like? Because I also don't want you to come in and say, when you were little, there was a boy at school that ate oranges and picked on you, and you smell this fragrant orange scent, and your senses take you back to that trauma, right? So on edge, you don't even know, but subconsciously you're responding to that. So we start off with sight, sense, smells, even before you walk in my room, right?
Ooh, so that now you've taught me something. I've always just put lavender on, or a relaxing candle, relaxing mix, but that's a really good way of doing it. And sometimes, I don't even know if the team noticed, but sometimes when I have meetings, I'll have binaural beats playing. So when you said that, I thought I was the only one neurotic enough to be doing things like that. I'll have binaural beats subconsciously playing in the background, just very low. to set the vibe and the tone of meetings and things like that.
100%. And there's so much science behind it, right? So I often show people like Harvard and the Institutes of Health in the US, all of these different studies, because a lot of times when you start talking about these things, people think you're crazy, right? And so that's another thing that I set the tone when they walk in my office. So when you walk in the office, you start that. The next thing is I actually genuinely say, how are you? Right? Mm-hmm. Before we go through the list of problems you decided to have, like some people say, I'm okay, but my clients have learned to not say, oh, I'm okay. Because I'm like, well, if you're okay, you don't need to be here.
Yeah. Why are you here?
Why are you here? Right. And then so they might say, I'm doing good or I'm not doing good. And I say, well, let's focus on what the feeling is you have right now. Can you tell me how you're feeling? Right. Mm-hmm. Let's get into that feeling work, which is energy work immediately. And if they say, well, I don't feel anything, that's a problem. If they say, I feel everything, that's a problem, right? So we immediately start getting into, well, how you're doing. And then we may jump into, can you tell me a little bit about your week? What are some key things that stood out to you, right? And then we begin pattern work, right? Noticing the patterns in our life, noticing how they are. And then as we talk about the emotions, I'll have them stop and say, I saw you blink there. And they'll be like, what? It looked like you were thinking about something there. You looked a little distracted in that moment. Can you tell me what you were feeling? I don't ask them what they were thinking. I ask, what were you feeling in that moment? And then most people will say, I was feeling X because I was thinking Y, right? The reason I want them to notice the feeling is if you notice the feeling, you can shift it and change it. If I say, I was thinking about John, you never identify when I think about John, there may be pain, right? And so that's where we're going with what the feeling and then the thing is. And that's where we begin with all of this energy work is because energy, our body runs on electromagnetic fields. We need electricity. This is why you use a defibrillator when you're having like a heart attack or something, because they're shocking the heart back energy, right? Yeah. So if you can notice the energy, you can shift the energy, right? And that's what we're really doing.
And it's shifting often the negative energy from past situations, so you can bring positive energy into new situations. Yes. And it's interesting because one of the questions that we do ask our clients when they've been on a date is, how did you feel? What did you think? Yes. Because clients will always overthink things and people can talk themselves in or out of any situation.
Yes.
But I'm always interested, how did you feel and where did you feel it?
That is a key component because and this is if we talk about chakras, people will talk like, I felt it, I felt my throat was tight, my neck was that, I felt I had a bit of a headache. At the end of the date, I felt overwhelmed, right? What is that telling you about you or them? Yeah.
And is that you that's overwhelmed, or was it the situation that overwhelmed you, or was it the person that then was overwhelming? So it's just one question that uncovers back to the onion. We've got all those layers.
It's funny, even like a second ago, you did something where even as you were talking about how you talk to them, your voice tone changed. You changed the energy even in our conversation. Like if people were to go back and replay it, your voice tone changed. You shifted the energy. You became calm. You became concerned. And I'm sure that's what you reflect back to your clients. And so this is you showing an example of actually probably what they're doing in their dating, right? Reflecting back that energy.
Yeah. Ooh. Really I'm very mindful of how I say things and what I do and all that. But every time I speak to you, Ivyia, I'm always just so blown away. And you did some exercises with some of the teams to show how that energy shifts.
Yes.
And that was incredible. And it's all those energy is subconscious, isn't it? It's at such a subconscious level. What are some energy red flags that people need to look for when they're dating? Energetic ones, because we know the others, not being attentive, not really paying attention, talking about exes or obsessed with somebody else. And so we know about this, but what about energetically? What are the things people should be focusing on?
Well, I often say, how you can feel someone's disconnected from you? You can feel that they're blocked. Right now, this could be them bringing their things into the situation, or this could be them telling you that they're not ready for you. Right? Yeah. So oftentimes we can feel disconnection. The other thing is you can feel rage or anger. Most people, if I say, is that person angry? they say yes or no. They can tell. And so if you feel rage or anger or those feelings, I often say they're probably not going to be a match because maybe there's something in them that they haven't worked on, right? They may talk very nice, but you're like, something's just off. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't feel like they want to connect. And I say, go with those feelings because two things. They're either the person or they're either you. And triggers are not bad. They're telling us there's something that we need to work on too. So even if we feel the shift in us, it's something that we need to work on. So we may take that back.
And it's interesting because sometimes we will get the same feedback from somebody.
Yes.
And it gets to the point where we think, well, if you're feeding back the same feedback about all these different people, perhaps we need to take a look at you, your dating patterns, your pain points, and everything else. It's about you, not them. And all too often we don't recognize it in ourselves that we are the problem. We're recognizing the same red flag in everybody else, but sometimes it could be us mirroring what's going on in other people, and they're reacting and responding to that.
And it's funny that you say that. I, in some ways, I don't want to use the word blame, but I say part of the cause of us assuming that it's them, not us, is the Instagram culture of one-lined memes about it's not them. If they don't appreciate, they don't do that. So we automatically cut off people and don't do the work, right? We don't look at the work because we're so used to being reinforced that we're okay no matter what. You're allowed to be you. You're allowed to pick you. You don't have to do the extra work, right? So
I think everyone needs to do the extra work before they start dating. No one comes out of a relationship without having work to do.
Yes. And no one enters into a relationship without doing some work, right?
It swings and roundabouts. It's both. And you don't go into a relationship without having a lot of work to do. There's a lot of compromise. You really start to do the work when you enter into a relationship. And that's when a lot of the work really begins. The healing work begins. Some people say to me, when's the right time to start dating? I need to do the work. I need to be healing. I need to be doing all of these things. But actually, if you're prepared to do the work while you're in the situation and you're putting yourself out there, you're going to have much better results, and you're going to meet someone who is on that journey with you. And we attract what we give off. So as long as we're willing and we're open and we're susceptible to everything, then it's going to be a better journey. If we go in with the attitude, it's everybody else, it's not me, I'm perfect, I've got no work to do, it was everybody else, then that journey is going to be a very difficult and uphill battle. And this is where people come away and saying, dating's rubbish. This whole journey's rubbish. But really, it's about looking at you and what your part that you're playing is.
Yes, 100%. And it's so funny that you say that, because I always tell my people who come to me, they're like, oh, I feel good, I'm ready to get in a relationship. And they get in, they're like, this is hard. I'm like, this is where you actually do the work. Like, you by yourself seeing me every week is you working through that. Now you have to do it. You have to go out there. You have to interact. You have to use the tools. You have to be triggered. You have to notice when you're feeling off. You have to notice when you're off. That's when you're doing the real work, right? When you're interacting with people. Me sitting at my house, I'm good. I can drink my right? So, but if you're out there, that's when you're doing the work, the real work.
And then if we flip it on its side, how do you know if someone's energy is good and it's great and you should be investing more in this relationship?
It's so funny that you say that. I always say it's their energy is their own. Now, I'm going to distinguish that because sometimes people with certain personality disorder types, the kitsch word nowadays is narcissism. I know it's everywhere. Some people mirror you, right? So you're like, I love them and everything about them, but they're just mirroring your energy. So I say, like, when you meet someone, does their energy feel like it's theirs, right? Like, do they, when they're talking to you about their experience and they're upbeat, it's them being upbeat. It's not them being a reflection of you. So when they're in your presence, everything is great, everything's sunny. But when they're telling you about their day, everything else is bad. So they're reflecting your energy, not bringing their own energy into it. Right. So you're happy and go lucky, they're reflecting you. Are they just bringing them like, I had this experience. I love these things. This is who I am. Not like, oh, you like ice cream? I love ice cream too. You like this? I love this too. It's more like, this is what makes me me. They, I almost say people sometimes have a glow about them. Right. It's almost like they energetically are giving you a glow and you just feel good in their presence, right? You feel seen in their presence. You feel paid attention to, you feel heard. Right now, it doesn't have to be 24/7 every day, all day. But when you're there, you feel like this person wants to make a connection with me. And that's when we talk about energy.
And it's authentic, isn't it? There's an authenticity. I mean, I always talk about, my 3 values are authenticity, trust, and respect. And I think everybody should go into this with that for themselves and presenting that in their best possible way forward. But actually understanding how that's being presented back. And it's a bit like love bombing and narcissism and abusive behaviors when we go back to the red flags. If someone is copying everything that you're doing, it could be a way of lulling you into a false sense of security, to bring you into an abusive situation. So I would rather someone was authentic and stood in their own way and presented themselves as they are. And it's one of those things, you have to be authentic in your whole dating, in the whole dating process. You have to be authentic with yourself. You have to be authentic with your matchmaker or your coach or your therapist. You have to be authentic and keep it real with whoever you're dating and see them through an authentic lens as well. Don't project either your fears, your anxieties, or even your wants, wishes, and desires into that situation. You have to see them as they truly are. And I think a lot of that's probably the hardest thing I think people struggle with. So what would you say if someone was saying to you, I'm really struggling to be authentic in this process?
That's such a great question, because I would say a lot of people don't know who they are, right? Because we've been told by TV, friends, parents, ourselves, we've made a person that fits what we think. So I don't start off with what you like and dislike, because that's, I like ice cream, I like this, I like that. But I'm like, in which ways in life do you feel good, right? So if I were to ask you an ideal day, what would that day look like? Like, what would you be doing? Right? Not, so if you say, I want to get up and I go to work and I do these things, maybe some people get up and want to go to the beach. Maybe some people do that. So this starts to key us into what you really like and desire. So ideally you match with a partner that shares those things or can complement them in a way that's not taking away from your authentic self, right? Do you get up and you love your body? Right? So if you get up and you love your body, then you want to make sure that you're with a partner that has those same kinds of needs, thoughts, and desires. Do you get up and want to go exercising? Find a partner that shares those desires. You get up and want to have croissants and tea? Absolutely. Find someone who shares that, because you want someone who complements your authentic self, right?
I love that. Ooh, Ivyia, this is fun. Now we could talk.
Yes.
We really could, but I will be told if I take up more of your time, we might have to do parts 2 and 3 to this.
Even like specified questions, right? Because that happens a lot when you're dating. The same patterns happen over and over. I see a lot when people come into my office, especially with my sports players. They have the same pattern over and over again, and they all think it's just them. But we repeat the same patterns as humans everywhere, especially in certain behaviors and traits,
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those things that don't feel that you're the odd one when it comes to dating, and that these feelings are unique to you. Yes, they are unique to you in one way, but it's not anything that we haven't heard in all the years that we've been doing this. And that we will not have an answer for as well. So I always say to people, reach out. So Ivyia, how can people reach you who are watching this and think, how do I get hold of Ivyia?
Well, they can find me on the internet at www.tampabaytherapyandtraining.com, which is my website. I'm on Instagram at Tampa Bay Therapy Training. I'm on Facebook. They can call my office in Tampa. My name is Ivyia, Ivyia. I'm only one. There's only one other person in the world apparently named that like me. So I'm easy to find in Tampa. So just reaching out and setting up an appointment, right? And you don't have to have something wrong to have an appointment. That would be the other thing, right? Sometimes we don't know what we need, and we just need someone to listen to us in our journey. We don't have to have life crumbling down. Sometimes we just need someone outside of our experience to help reflect back to us what our experience is.
Ivyia, thank you so much. This has been wonderful, and I'm sure we will be speaking again to do part 2 and probably a part 3 of this soon.
It's been perfect as always. Look forward to talking to you all. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.